Hey everybody, back here again today working on this thing, and as you can see there's been some welding done on it. So let me show you what I did and how I did it. Alright, so we do have to make some modifications to this cab in order for this thing to work right on the S10 chassis with all the other stuff. First thing I want to talk about is this right here. I made a little video of this, a little shorts video. So basically all I did was I drew around this with a Sharpie, and I cut it out with my grinder, and then I just took it and I flipped it 180 degrees because it was curved. This end here, when it came out to here, it was curved right on this end. So I made sure when I cut the curved end of it, and when I flipped it over, the curved end was here, and it fit right up against there. And I welded it back in and ground it down smooth, and now I've got an extra ½ inch of clearance for my valve cover on this side. I had some clearance, but now I got a little more. It didn't get to look so tight in there. And then, thanks to my friend George, he told me that I needed to look at these to make sure that this metal I left out, I don't need it for the hinges, and sure enough I do. So I made new pieces, and on this one here, I had to make a piece that was kind of an L shape because this whole piece was missing because it was rusted out. So I made an L-shaped piece here and welded it in and ground it down. And on this side here, I just took a piece of ½ inch wide flat stock and welded it in there and ground it down smooth. So now I have plenty of bracing for my hinges. And then I had my opening for the steering column on the 48 Chevy truck, the original location. Well, I'm not going to use that, I found out. And it had a lip all the way around it, if you guys saw that in any of my videos. So I had to grind that lip down, and then I had to take a piece of flat stock and bend it and shape it to fit the opening because it was kind of an oval shape. So I had to bend it to fit it, and I mounted it flush and welded it flush and ground it down so it's flat that way, because this part of the firewall is going to be showing when the truck is done. I showed you guys a video or a picture of what one of these trucks looks like with a V8 engine in it, and basically from that bend down, you really don't see much of it when it's together. The engine's below that level, but everything up here you see. So I want this to look nice and be painted. So I'm going to have that painted. I'm going to mask this off and POR this bottom half. I'm also going to POR around where I put the new firewall into the new cowl because there's a lip there, and I want to make sure water can't get in there, so I'm going to put POR on that and seal it. And then on the 3 holes for the clutch, the brake, and the gas pedal, I just made a piece to go on the inside and welded it on the inside. Then I welded it shut on the outside, just welded a circle on it, and then ground that smooth. And we'll look at that, and then, oh, well, these corners I already showed you those. And so then we'll look at that on the inside. You can see what that looks like on the inside. So basically I made a couple square pieces here to put on these two, and then I made a D-shaped piece there and put on that one. So you can see that. And then there's the steering column. It's mounted flush, like I said. And of course, all this is going to be covered up with either carpet or padding, so you won't be able to see any of it anyhow. So it doesn't have to be flawless. It's just, you just want it to be sealed. I made sure I welded all the way around it so it's sealed up, and I'm going to POR everything too. So it's sealed up. And, oh, and then in here, I mentioned that I didn't want to put this piece on yet because I needed to do a modification in here. So if you look in there, you'll see I've got a piece of plate steel welded in there. And the reason is because on this side here, oh, right in here, I'm going to be putting the emergency brake. And I need something to mount it to. And a lot of guys will, if they've got the inner panel out, they'll put a brace in there and weld nuts to the backside. Well, I've already got the inner panel in, and I need to put the outer panels in because I got to send this thing to paint. So I just took a piece of 1/4 inch thick steel plate and cut it to fit in there. As you can see, it fits in there pretty well. Takes up most of the space. And I'll just drill that and tap it for whatever bolts I need to mount the emergency brake assembly with. So that's what's going to go there. Then I'm going to put these on, but before I put these on, I got to mount the doors back on again because I got to make sure these are right. So I got to do that. So that's what I got going on over there. And then on this side, well, this is the back side of that little piece I put in to get me clearance for the valve covers. You can see that. You can see how it comes in now instead of going out. And again, that's going to be covered up with, I got a real thick pad to go on this firewall, so that's going to be all covered up. I'll POR it, but it's almost impossible to get in there and grind that. I tried to grind it a little bit, but it's almost impossible to grind it because of all the angles. But I cleaned it up a little bit and it looks okay, and I'll just POR it and it'll be fine. And I had to redo my corners because when I welded them long pieces in, you can see the weld marks. Had to redo my corners and with the urethane because it burned it out. So I just cleaned them up with a wire brush and redid them. So, oh, and then my dash. So I found out on this thing, I don't know if I can get up here and you can see this or not, but here, let me get that light over here. Let me get that light and put it over here so we can see better what we're talking about. All right. So I found out the column on this thing, the original column, if you look, get my light where you can see it. If you look, the original column went right here. It was basically about centered right there, okay? And which means it was offset a little bit. It was more toward this gauge, this set of gauges than that one. And most of the guys, they try to center it between the two gauges. And actually, if you do, if you've got a 48, 50 to 55 Chevy truck or 54 Chevy truck, you're putting on an S10 chassis, and you're putting a V8 in it with headers, it's a good idea to move it over and center it between the gauges because it gives you a little more clearance for headers. So I went ahead. There was a depression in here where the column went down into through the firewall, and so I made a piece. I had to cut a piece and had to put a couple bends in it, and then shape it with my grinder to fit right in that opening. And then I welded it shut. You can see that's gone now. So that's all going to be flat. And of course, when they do the body work and paint the dash, they'll all be nice and smooth. So that's what I had to do there. I didn't even know I was going to have to do that till yesterday, but I got all that done. And so I'll be moving the new column over a little bit so it's centered on these gauges. Some guys just leave that because once you get the column in place, it's kind of hidden behind the column. You really can't see it, but I want it to be right because that's how I am. So I went ahead and made the piece and welded in there. It looks pretty good. I think it'll be fine. So anyhow, now I need to POR all this, and then I'm going to have to weld these pieces in here and get them lined up. I got to line up the doors and all that. So anyhow, that's where I'm at with this thing. Getting closer to being done with it. So it's getting there. I think the firewall's pretty good. You know, there's a few modifications obviously you got to make it work with the newer vehicles. I'm gonna have a master cylinder here, and I'll have a plate that the guy who cut my frame mounts for this thing, he also sent me a plate to put here as a backing plate for the master cylinder. And then I think the column is going to come through somewhere right in here. I'm not exactly sure because I don't have it yet. So, but once I get to that point, I'll have to cut a hole in the firewall here for the column, mount the master cylinder there, and then over there, somewhere in here, I got to cut, I think, about a 6-inch round circle for the air conditioning and heating to go through. So some of these firewalls come with that hole already in it, but this one didn't, so I got to cut it. But I'd rather have it that way anyhow, because that way I can put it right where I want it. So anyhow, that's where we stand with that, and we'll keep working on it. I'm getting pretty close to being done with it to send it to the paint shop. So, and then I still got to work on that motor, put it together. So anyhow, we'll keep working on that and keep showing you guys videos what I'm doing, and we'll keep working on it. All right, guys, thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.